I try this a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks that I know. I'm getting tired of talking, and I need more of a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. You got me on tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around, no, I won't be turning around. It's the right time. You feeling alright? I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. I think I'll do it on my way. I'm gonna show you what I'm going through, get you out of your comfort zone, 'cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. You got me on tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around, no, I won't be turning around. It's the right time. You feeling alright? I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around.
Okay, let's just go to this one so we can hear all of this, actually. Apparently there's no sound on that particular platform. And hey, it wouldn't be Geeksvana Live if there wasn't an audio problem at some kind of at some kind of point. But hi everyone, welcome to the show. It's great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us. Matt Preston, Dave Ennis, Paul Murray, Agent K, Peter, Andy Keast. Hello, Master Stupid. I still love your name. Wilderness to Talk, good to see you, sir. Yes, unfortunately, the way I build my scenes in OBS, for some reason, one of them, which is the Sean Focus one, the audio keeps getting knocked out, which I haven't actually found out why that's happening, which is perhaps OBS trying to say it doesn't want to hear me rattling on and wants me to get straight to my guests and my co-host. Which is all fun and games. On tonight's show, we're going to be speaking to this man who is already now in the shop, bless him. I've thrown him in there. Andrew McQuillan from Crowded Space Drones. Crowded Space Drones are a very, very interesting company with incredible origin stories, which include Game of Thrones, which those of you who have seen the interviews on the channel with Andrew will know a little bit about that, but we'll touch a bit on the subjects in the interviews and expand on those as well. One of the areas that Andrew works on is public safety in drones, which is basically where we look at I now work for Andrew. That was a Freudian slip if ever there was one. Where basically they look at things like public safety at events, including stopping illegal drone flights. So these are the guys that use all the equipment that will find where you are flying your drone if you want to fly across one of these events against regulations legally. If you have any questions for Andrew as the show goes on, can you @Geeksvana and then put the question. And my co-host, Stephen, who you all know from the Flyby guys, will put those questions across as he sees them pop up, as there's spots, etc., for us to be able to talk to that. Now, I have asked Stephen to remove an offensive item which he's wearing this evening. I apologise to everybody that he's wearing all of the Xbox fans out there, that he's wearing a PlayStation t-shirt.
All of the PS fans out there as well. I'm out there supporting you all.
I do have my Xbox thing here. So Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you again, sir.
Thank you very much for the invite.
Hey, it's you're more than welcome. It's fantastic to meet people like yourself in the industry who are incredibly busy, but also take the time to engage with everybody. And I really enjoyed our time together with the interview that was split into two parts, because there was just so much to cover. I really enjoyed that time with you, and it's been fascinating watching what Crowded Space Drones is doing, which we'll obviously be touching on now. You sent me a little something before the show, didn't you? Which those of you on Twitter and Instagram would have seen.
Well, I mean, I'm from Ireland, so I don't usually chat to people without alcohol involved. So,
and that is my heritage. So despite the fact that I don't drink, and many people know that I am a non-drinker, I have to, if an Irishman sends me a drink, as an Irishman, I really can't refuse. It would be, there would be public protests against such a thing. So it very kindly sent me some aviation, I can smell it already, some aviation gin.
That should be a positive statement, not a negative statement.
Ooh, okay. 42, have I already started on it? 42% alcohol by volume. And this, of course, is the aviation gin made very popular by Ryan Reynolds, who has now, of course, done a deal to Diageo. Am I saying that? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Diageo, yeah.
Let me pour a little bit.
After 2 glasses of gin, you shouldn't really matter how it pronounces anyways.
A little bit more came out than I intended there. So, and whilst you watch me pouring my very English version of a gin and tonic, would you like to show the people at home your own version of your gin and tonic for the evening?
I mean, this is an Irish version. I'd like to preface that I have no issues with alcohol at all. I'm just Irish. So that's an Irish gin and tonic.
You've no issues with alcohol, but you have a huge gin and tonic on standby, and you sent the host a bottle of gin, but you have no issues.
My gins, I've had my bottle for a shorter period of time than you, but it's still,
Oh, well, it's clear.
Closed now. I mean, the pubs are closed now. This is the only alcohol available right now. So
exactly, it's closed. It's opened my nose up, which is very nice. Thank you very much. Cool. That is it's very nice with a bit of fever tree there as well. So tonic water. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. It is now going to become a minimum standard that I expect all guests, interview or live stream, to send me things, just so everybody knows that. Please be aware.
I think from my experience, I think somebody needs to bring out a drone specific flavored drink. I mean, I've seen there's coffee. You can get coffee grinds now and coffee beans. But we need a drone. This is aviation gin. That's the closest thing I could get you.
That's a very, very good idea. Yes.
Somebody needs to speak to the distillery and get some.
Well, we could just make some Geeksvana gin labels.
You can market anything.
Like that, so hopefully,
would you want it to have hints of plastic, maybe, sort of, rather than hints of woody? Philip Koshat, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. Super chat, oh, wrong show. Good evening, Sean. Yes, that's for Ken Heron's Thursday Night Live. Very good, sir. This actually tastes very good. This might be a longer show than I was intending.
I think Ryan Reynolds knows what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah. He I mean, he really does. So tonight we're going to, as I said, we're going to have a chat with Andrew, and then a little bit later on we're going to be talking about a couple of the stories that have hit the press. I know Stephen wants to have a talk about our story on the rogue drone incident, or the rogue drone incident, as I call it. And also he's going to be giving us his impressions as a professional drone pilot, of the Mavic Air 2. And what he thinks of it, which is going to be very exciting to hear. Been fascinating. If you don't follow Stephen, his YouTube link is in the. It's making me gassy. His YouTube link is in the description, along with his Instagram and Twitter. He's been sharing some Instagram photos of the fantastic pictures he's been getting with the Mavic Air 2. So thanks for sharing those, Stephen. I've been enjoying those very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. Right. So. Thank you very much, Philly Drone Life, Mikey. $5 super chat, super sticker. How's it going? It's going okay, Mikey. Mikey, I'm actually drinking alcohol. You'll be shocked and appalled, I'm sure.
I think you'll find you'll be getting back on the Ken Doble show very soon as well.
Do you think? Yes. Well, he did actually like my Instagram post or my Twitter post, actually. I almost answered him to say, I'm not stealing your thing. This is a one-off thing. But I wanted to wait to see how tonight went, frankly, and to see how much I enjoyed it. We do have a very quick message from young Lib, who obviously will be with us again next Thursday for the drone show. But she just wanted to pop in and say,
did you know the most interesting people in the world subscribe to this channel? Coincidence, obviously.
Thank you, Lib. Yes, I think the most interesting people subscribe to this channel too. Please remember to hit the like button as well. That really does help the channel out an awful lot. I would really appreciate it. So, Andrew, welcome back to the channel. As I say, it's been great finding out bits and bobs about what Crowded Space Drones have been up to. It feels like you guys are incredibly busy at the moment, and you're popping up everywhere, which is fantastic.
We're quite lucky in the work that we do have. We were hit a bit substantially in relation to the events not happening this summer.
Of course.
But we've diversified even more now from the events portfolio and gone into quite a lot of different things and lots of things in the pipeline and horizon for that. So it's but it's good to come on and sort of debunk certain things and sort of in relation to some of the work we do.
Yes.
And also give more context and insight, because you can't really go into detail in, for example, press articles and things, because you don't know how it's going to be taken. Therefore, you have to be quite careful.
That's
Whereas
right.
when you do interviews like the one we did before, or this, you know, I know what I say is going to come across the right way in the live questions. That's why I do really like live question.
No, indeed, and there is something about the live side of things. As you say, we're able to bounce back and forth and also get the feedback from the audience as well to see how that message is going across, because it's something that struck me before I spoke to you. Obviously, we met through Twitter and my questioning of North Yorkshire police drones and as far as their activity at the York racecourse. Just basically saying what a great job they were doing, because obviously they were approaching people to advise them rather than having to straight prosecute people, etc. I thought it was so fantastic. One of the things that struck me about you and Crowded Space Drones is that you guys are drone enthusiasts. You guys love drones. You fly drones. You've done some fantastic work, including it's not secret anymore, is it, about the Queen? That's public now, isn't it? Yes. You did the Queen's speech. Was it the Queen's speech?
Yeah, we do a few different bits there. So like we did the last broadcast, and we also did all the VE Day stuff for this year and things. For the
fantastic. And wasn't that the first 4K Ultra HD Queen's speech as well?
Yeah, it was the first 4K Ultra HD, and we're back again this year for it too.
Because of course I didn't even think about the fact that the whole thing was a lot of the stuff that's happened there, of course, has been filmed by drone, and I didn't even pick up on that actually, because of course your work was so great. So by Royal,
that was one of the worst days I've ever flown. Due to the
really?
Oh, that was. We turned up there, and you can imagine it's a really complicated process. Even if you're filming for the Queen, it's still hard to get into film at Windsor, where the Queen was.
Of course.
And we were given a very tight slot, because basically we wanted to do lots of things that you couldn't normally do because the Windsor Castle, you can go to it normally when pre-COVID, you can go for tours. So it's actually very busy with people during the day. So we wanted to do early morning, because that meant we had complete carte blanche access. But the wind was gusting 30 to 35 miles an hour.
Oh no.
And like, just credit to DJI with the sort of Inspire 2 and X7. Those shots are still. You wouldn't know it. No, you wouldn't know it at all. Very nicely flying. I mean, worked great for the flag shot. Not so much of flying through sort of very small corridors and different things for other parts of it, but yeah. And then the sunlight changed and got even better, so we had to redo the whole shoot again. It was just a lot of time pressure, but it worked really well.
Yeah, it worked extremely well, and again, it shows how drones can help get round things like obviously separations with COVID and everything else like that, and still present a very professional, good-looking show. Do you often have to fly in your suit? Because I noticed the shot you took of you and your crew outside was in full suit and tie.
Working directly in the royal family, you have to wear formal attire. But yeah, well, we had to actually track a bit to get down to the driveway, because we wanted to do shots coming out the driveway. So I had to walk across the grass and things early in the morning with dew and things. So yeah, it wasn't great. And then there's some subtext to that as well. So we arrive at Windsor and get introduced to the person who runs Windsor for the Queen, and suddenly all this black smoke comes over the castle wall.
Oh no!
Now, if you remember, Windsor had a big fire previously.
Yes.
Everyone goes into panic stations, but what we had seen, and there was 3 of us, and we had been meeting in the car park at the bottom of the hill, and for some reason, somebody had set a bin on fire behind the kebab shop down the bottom of the hill. We'd driven, it was a very small fire when we were driving in, but we were able to tell, no, I don't think it's Windsor Castle's on fire, there's a kebab shop, somebody set the wheelie bin. It was
Oh dear. And
then you heard the sirens, but yeah, everyone was running about thinking, oh, Windsor's on fire again. It was...
That's crazy. And I also love the very English thing there where we're talking about the Queen, Royal Castle, Windsor Castle. The gin's getting to me. Windsor Castle, and it all sounds very. Our American viewers are like, "Wow, that sounds fantastic and very English and posh and everything else like that." And then, of course, there's a fire in the bins behind the kebab shop, which just brings it all back down to how Surrey and Berkshire can be sometimes.
Top of the hill kebab shop, top of the hill castle.
Yeah, superb. Philly Drone Life, thank you so much for your your second $5 super chat. I really appreciate it, sir, and all your support and everyone's support for being here. I really do appreciate it. Again, at Geeksvana, and then if you've got any questions regarding the drone detection stuff and that side of things, or any of the work that Crowded Space Drones do, let us know. I've got a couple of very short clips which I have stolen from Crowded Space Drones Instagram today to show you. This is a clip showing one of the drones that they fly, which I found very interesting.
We had to walk into the middle of the mud to fly from.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The clip before, I'm not too sure where that's from.
The first one was Hyde Park.
Hyde Park, yeah.
And the second one was the drone used, as you were saying, at Creamfields, which was interesting. And a couple of really cool shots that I took just because they look cool. One of them was from the Isle of Wight, and the other one was was one from Arcadia actually. Which I'll play out because I think that's pretty cool. Any music that you hear, I have altered it because obviously the copyright, etc. I think we're okay with the one in the background on the last video because background music's okay now. Copyright for original versions. I think for cover versions, I think you're okay, especially if people can't actually work out what they are. And that was a fantastic shot from the Isle of Wight Festival, which was a small island off the south coast of England, which has a yearly festival. In actual fact, in that crowd somewhere is my girlfriend. She's a regular attendee. When I saw that clip, I thought, I've got to play that because Joanne's down there somewhere. which is awesome. So
That thing is, we did go through Twitter after concerts like that and look for the red dots in the sky of us moving along in everyone's videos. I know it's really sad and pathetic, but
not at all, because again, obviously, as I've already mentioned briefly, which we'll come on to in a minute, the whole idea of detecting drones and stopping improper use of drones. But you guys are cinematography experts yourselves as well, and because of the special licenses and the special permissions, etc., that you hold, it also means that these events have you capture things like that for the Isle of Wight Festival, which is that must be some really fun work to essentially work both sides of the sort of spectrum of flying the drones and stopping the drones, etc.
From the sort of music festival side, we actually came into the flying the drones before we came into dealing with the illegal drones. But basically, we became the sort of people to go to before the dealing with illegal ones.
Excellent.
Because there's been quite a few occasions where it's affected us and we couldn't fly because of illegal drones before we sort of put measures in place. But we like to think we sit very firmly in the middle of both camps. So we sit very firmly in the positive use of drones, and then also in the there is a problem. There's an undeniable problem. It's not as big as the press or certain companies who sell products to stop drones make out, but there is a slight problem in different aspects. So we sit very firmly in the middle that this is something that needs to be managed appropriately and can be really fantastic when used. It's not something that needs clamped down on. Yes. In a negative sense.
Absolutely. And that is actually something which, as I say, that impressed me when I first came across you guys and North Yorkshire police drones, who I followed for a while, but in the particular deployment that they were doing at York Racecourse, is that, again, it's Paul, isn't it, that's NY police drones. And he is a drone pilot. He loves drones. He loves the positivity of it. And that's sort of two-sided of both sides of the fence really came through with that operation, where you were able to go and warn hobbyists, etc., rather than as you're saying, some parts that perhaps some companies that would have gone out there and done that would have perhaps, or some authorities would have looked to have made spectacles of these people, etc. And that to me is really, really positive.
You have to. That's something which is really important. You have to enforce the positivity, but at the same time be responsible, because at the same time you yourself have to be an example, to let's say the whole professional side, but then also to the hobbyist side, and that's why being in the middle and that's something which I am as well. And you have to be that way. You have to see, you have to see both sides. If you're not, in a sense, empathetic towards the people, then there's just no point, because because it's always going to help you. If you start clamping down, then that will have an effect on you also in the long run as well.
Exactly.
I think there's lots of people out there. I mean, the drone, I don't think this is a fault of the CEA, but I think the regulations are not anywhere near as clear as they could be. And I think with Europe coming out, it'll get even more muddy in that sense. So you have to give people the benefit of the doubt and explain to them what they've done wrong. And if they've done anything wrong, there's lots of times we praise people for, if we may detect a drone and it's completely lawful, we still have to go and check it out and make sure it is lawful.
Absolutely.
But we're not going to criticize or anything. We're going to promote good use. So, but yeah, the key thing is then we do get tougher when it comes to part of the problem in the UK is there's up until quite recently, there was not a national team on the policing side who would deal with drones across the UK. There now is the MPCC counter drone team, and they're very good.
Yes. But
they're not operationally on the ground. So, they're giving advice to the local police force because the local police have to deal with it. So the likelihood between major events of, if you have music festivals across the UK, you may have the same people trying to illegally fly drones at those festivals. They come across our team who are the same faces across all the events, and they know they can't get pull the wool over our eyes, because you do get people like that. I mean, not such a huge percentage at all.
Yes.
90% of the people who we deal with are just misinformed or confused about the regulations.
Exactly.
They're not malicious use at all.
So let me put a scenario to you. I am a rogue, as people have seen with the recent report. I am what some professional drone pilots would call a rogue drone pilot, and I intend on flying my drone towards an event that you are securing, that Crowded Space Drones is looking after, basically. And you're looking after all those people attending, and also looking after the hobby. I'd like to say that I strongly feel that anything that stops illegal drone flight stops it being headline news the next day as well. But let's say I take off with my my drone and I fly towards it. how are you going to be able to detect and stop me?
There is no, I don't want to use the phrase sort of golden bullet, but there is no one system which can detect all drones. We're not there yet. There's various, and I mean that in terms of at a distance rather than very close range, because the key thing about this is we want to prevent people becoming. We're not there because we don't want the drone there. We're not there because we don't want the drone filming or doing things. We're there because we need to manage that area of airspace, to make sure that no one is in danger by anything. Because it's the same, if you fly over network rail property, as you've seen for previous aircraft that have had crashes or things, because they may or may not have been affected by things on the railway lines. So it's a case of making sure people are aware of all the hazards involved, because you may not realize what you're involved putting the location you're putting your drone in is actually endangering people, because there's a higher risk your drone may fail or different things. And there's a lot more sort of temporary networks and different sort of electrical systems involved in events that can affect. We've got one site in London, which is the Olympic Park, where if you're flying something like a DJI Inspire, whenever you fly near a certain building, which is in relation to broadcast, you will lose signal on your video receiver.
Wow.
On any DJI Inspire you fly near that building, because of the nature of it. Luckily, your command and control link doesn't go down, but your video does. And things like that can cause issues, and that can happen around events because we put a lot of temporary systems in place.
Of course.
And like what you mentioned, Hyde Park, normally that's the televised event we do there. And there's a wireless link to the BT Tower in London from on site, from high level. If you fly through that, you will lose signal. So it's things like that,
This was my question just when you were showing the clips there, is that how is your connection when you're flying? Because if you're at these festivals, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, is that because there must be so much, there's so much equipment that must have an effect on you. How big is your ground team? When you are at some sort of like Hyde Park or something, how many of you are there?
You're talking 4 people.
Okay.
Absolute minimum of 3, but typically 4.
Yeah. Okay.
And those are doing different roles. Depends what we're doing. So if we're doing more of a public safety type role rather than promotional filming, you're going to have it. Well, in all the jobs we do as a company, our minimum composition typically is a pilot and camera operator. That's our minimum sort of camera operator stroke observer. We don't really do single pilot jobs that much, but especially in relation to any events or anything, it gets a lot bigger. Then we have other people in relation to, as you mentioned, we've got an OSC that allows us to go essentially sub 50 for crowds. That's quite unique, but that requires more management. It's not just a case saying we can do that. There's more steps you put in place to prevent any accidents or anything occurring. And thankfully we haven't had anything in that regard. So those measures clearly work. So it's a case of having enough staff there to deal with problems. We have lost an aircraft before in 2017 at a music festival. A seagull decided to attack it, and it killed the Inspire 1. But the key thing is our procedures worked, and it fell exactly where we predicted it would fall in a sterile area. So excellent. It's proof in the pudding that the procedures work, and that's the only accident we've ever had. But in terms of the crew, we then sometimes, if we're doing public safety, we'll have someone in either the event control room on site or the police control room, because we have the facilities to securely live broadcast our feed off site to various different control rooms. And we also then may have different people in for different roles. If we're doing this, sometimes we'll do specific for promotional side. We may do specific shots with an artist. Therefore, we need someone at the stage to liaise those shots.
Of course.
In relation to the fireworks shots you saw and things, one of the key things to get fireworks really nailed on is knowing exactly when they're going to go off, because sometimes it's a 15-minute display. You've got a 22-minute battery. You can't be waiting for 10 minutes before it starts. So the key thing is we're hooked in with, there's a fantastic company doing most of the UK events called BPM, and they do all the special effects. So they'll actually speak to us on the radio. They don't normally previously speak to anyone, but now they realize that they look better on film if we were with them.
It helps them as well, of course.
So we cover loads of events with them, and we will speak to them, and we'll hear their fire calls, because they'll call 321 fire and different things. Sometimes not so much if it's a touring show, because they're going to the same song every night, and they just hit the button and everyone knows that's when it goes off. But when it's a festival for environment, like the clip you showed, there'll be a 3-2-1 for us normally,
Yeah.
and then we know when to go be
Excellent.
where, and we know where
Yeah.
what's going to look like. So that's
superb.
crucial to it. But
That-
yeah,
that's
it does
absolutely
take
superb.
it's labor intensive. It's not the sort of work that even if they did have an OSC, a sort of single crewed operator could do.
No,
purely from the point of
absolutely.
view of keeping everyone safe.
Exactly, yeah, and absolutely, and on the public safety side of things, what is the furthest away that you're able to detect incoming drones or drones being flown in and around that area?
We have a competition with our staff, so we do have a sort of our record. I can tell you now, our record is from somewhere in the southeast or southwest of London at an event, which is quite raised up on the location where it is. It was a really good day, and we got a Mavic flying in Maidstone in Kent, which I think is 46 kilometers away.
46 kilometers.
Now, to be fair, that Mavic was at 600 feet,
Wow.
but that's our longest range hit so far. Normally within the 25 kilometer range, easily, but 46 is our highest.
Wow, that's crazy. But 25K is something that you guys can handle.
Right. I mean, we did a TV production that was well, I can probably say what it is now. There was a live stream in Sky Arts from a TV show last week, from an island in Essex, and we looked after that, and we were getting hits 20 kilometers away.
Wow.
Wow.
That's incredible. That's mind blowing. As we're talking about fireworks and timing, I've got one more clip which is labelled Arcadia, which was something that impressed me an awful lot. So I'll play this out for the audience.
It's quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah, very cool though. And as you say, that's all about timing and getting the right shot at the right time and piecing everything together, which I find that side of things absolutely fascinating.
That was a 2-night show, so that was second night footage.
Wow.
So you get to see, the footage is always better if you get to see the show one night and practice.
Of course, yes.
Hopefully it doesn't rain the second night and ruin the shots, but that's a second night show.
So do you have events now where you would do both sides? You would do the cinematography and the detection. Oh yes, indeed.
We have another part of the this is the problem with drones as well, and it's not a problem with drones but people's perceptions is we would bid for lots of work where they went for ground filming, because we do have a lot of ground filming component to what we do, and they're like, oh, we don't want a drone, we want ground filming. We've got crowded space drones as a name, but we do ground filming, we do other things, so we've got CSD Productions, which essentially is crowded space drone productions. So to give you an example, at Creamfields, so we supply 2 cable cams, that's 6 crew for that. We supply 2 drones for promotional use, and that's another 3 to 4 per drone. We also then have specialty cameras. So we've got like it's called a point of view camera. Basically, we've got a custom built headset, which gives a Sony A7S on a wide lens to give you a view as if it's you. So you should go on our website, CSD Productions, and have a look at the fun fair rides, because they're so much fun to film, because you just think you're on it. So our crew at Creamfields could be up to 60 people.
Wow.
And that weekend we also then have Leeds, Reading, and a few other festivals out. So next year, if they're back next year, which I hope they will, we're probably talking about over 120 that weekend. And that's across promotional filming, across all that, public safety use of drones, drone detection.
Brilliant. And I said it before, and I say it again. Congratulations for the work that you're doing and the business that you're building. It's fantastic to see.
It's purely down to our team. I mean, I don't take much credit for any of that, because
I know you don't, but you have to take some of it, because you put the team together as well, of course, which we'll talk about in a second, which has been again one of the other things that's blown my mind.
We're lucky that when we're growing the team at the moment, the people we're getting are phenomenal. Like, we're just, a lot of it's being in the right place at the right time. We're getting people who are completely leaders in their field. Yeah,
well, we'll talk about that in 1 second, because I have another clip to play for that, actually. But one question that Sunrise Water Media had in the chat was, when they detect a Mavic drone, a Mavic that far away, is detection and monitoring the only goal, or is the goal, or is it to take the drone out somehow? And that's an interesting question, because again, that comes down to perception, doesn't it? Whereas on a lot of your events, it is actually, as far as I understand it, find them and go to them and find the
Yeah, but
pilot.
it's also, can a Mavic travel 46 kilometers?
Yes, no, indeed. It isn't a threat.
So this is where it gets quite sort of complicated to an extent. So GDPR, it's a really thorny subject, especially in relation to drones, because a lot of people have a view that GDPR doesn't apply as much to drones because if you're lawfully there filming, whereas GDPR can apply to what you're doing. So from a GDPR perspective, once we know that drone is not a threat, we can't stop the system detecting that far out.
Of course.
We can't say, right, only cover this range, really, because then bigger threats coming in would be a problem for us. But once we know it's a Mavic and it's that far out, we discount it. It's not a threat for us.
Okay.
It's only if it's a threat to that event we deal with that drone.
Yes.
You're talking
if you were working with police like you were in the York race event, would that still then be, for instance, if you've got something 40 kilometers away at 600 feet, which is obviously an illegal flight, would that be passed on, or would the police also stay very localized to their deployment?
Depends on the resourcing level. So
because otherwise you would be having people dotting everywhere, and rather than looking after the thing that they're deployed to do.
A lot of them wouldn't be the same force area. Like it's well known that we deployed to Heathrow, and were there for quite a long time at Heathrow,
Yes.
Until they got their own systems installed.
Sat on the rooftop.
And the problem there is outside of the M25, it's Thames Valley Police, also to the west. They didn't really want to know to an extent, whereas the Met Police were really good inside the M25. But outside the M25, the Met Police actually went to quite a few because Thames Valley weren't interested. So it comes down to, if it's a neighbouring force, it's unlikely that's nowhere near the grand scheme of things for them, because they don't even know the threat level for your event, typically.
Exactly, and as you say, it is about the threat as well, of course. And I know that there was one chap on Facebook who got his new DJI drone through, and he took it off from his front garden very close to Gatwick, and about 25 minutes later, he had a knock at the door. From the local constabulary, who actually he shared his Ring doorbell footage of it, actually, who were actually very nice to him, and again spoke to him about it rather than wanting to cause any trouble, because he didn't go very high and that type of thing, and they would say, look, just don't do it. And he was shocked that they were able to find him, basically, and able to find him that quickly.
Well, it's not sort of sensitive to tell you that at the one we did for Sky there the other week, or last weekend, we got a drone flying towards the island. Obviously, we don't know if that's a threat or not to us. Plus, the island is more than 500 meters out from the shore, so no one should lawfully be flying out to there anyway. But we detected a drone. I don't know the make or model. I know it was in a sort of residential area, flying from outside a house, and we were there within 3 minutes. And we spoke to the pilot and didn't even realize that A, it could be detected, or B, it was what he was doing was in the congested area. No, so he was just educated, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that I love about this system, frankly, is that it is actually going and talking to people rather than this sort of authoritarian view that people have of the drone detection side of things. That's it. They're in handcuffs and off to prison. It's a much more where possible. Of course, if someone really is breaching something, of course they're going to be dealt with. But where possible, where it is somebody making a genuine error, then there is a conversation that can happen in theory, which is excellent.
Two scenarios are not having a detection system and the police responding, and then therefore not knowing if they're going to fly again, or having a detection system and be able to educate the user we have that, and that we will know if they fly again. Therefore, you get higher level compliance, and also the police aren't stressed or worried as much, because we'll know if it flies and we'll know where it flew from.
Exactly.
So if there's no detection system at these events, and the police are lucky enough to follow a drone back, they'll be a lot more typically authoritarian with it in the response, and more likely to seize the drone, even if there's potentially not an offence.
Exactly.
Because it can be seized in relation to they suspecting there's offence until they can investigate it. Whereas if we've detected that, it's completely fine. We can get it dealt with quickly. So
exactly.
Compared to not having detection, the response to the end user, the pilot, would be a lot more negative than just education.
Absolutely. As I always say, the York Racecourse one that I keep coming back to, if that was an Inspire falling in the middle of the track when the horses are running down, that's a very different headline than actually the very limited coverage there was in the general media was all positive, which was fantastically positive.
Proportionality, because horse racing has had issues with drones falling out of the sky recently, on more than 4 occasions actually in the last few months. So The issue there is a known safety issue in relation to horse racing events caused by third-party drones unconnected to the racing. So whereas we've had, I mean, it's public knowledge that we've just got a lot of drugs seized at festivals trying to be flying in my drone.
Indeed.
The Mavic is essentially a very well-liked tool for that, but we've also had like an Inspire 1 with brown packages of cocaine wrapped to it, trying to fly in and things.
Wow.
So yes,
that's an expensive delivery system.
The problem is security at a festival and event is very good nowadays because it has to be because of counter-terrorism on the ground. So people are looking for ways to get around that, and it's either over the fence with a drone or bury it somewhere weeks before.
Of course.
So
there's a question here from Akira Show is asking, what about fixed wing RC planes operated like a drone with an FPV camera?
I mean, in terms of detection, anything that has a radio signal in that basis, or even if it's got a physical mass in the air, can be detected. Yeah. So it's not anything flying there can be detected.
It's the transmission, isn't it, rather than the specific item.
It depends what system we're using. We use a panel of systems because one's never good enough to cover all situations. So, but most of the drones we do detect are from one manufacturer for the vast majority. That's not a negative in that manufacturer, just means they're probably doing quite a good job at making drones. But we do detect other types of drones as well. And that's the sort of, some people try to goad us into online saying how we do it in very much detail and what systems we're using. But obviously we're dealing with threats to, major events, lots of people, and also the royal family attends some of these events. There's lots of different factors. So we can't say exactly what products we are using at each event.
Exactly.
But we can say what products we have used and what compromises our panel. For example, DJI Aeroscope is one of our staples of our panel because it covers all DJI products. And it does a really, really good job in that respect. It's a restricted system. It's only available to certified public safety agencies. We have a permission to use that because of the nature of our work. But it's not the only system we use. We'll typically put it out to every event anyway because it's a very good system. But there's lots of different systems out there that use different. Because again, we use RF detection, which essentially is what Aeroscope is. We use physical mass detection, which essentially is cameras looking out.
Right, yes.
And we also use a few different other systems, ranging from LiDAR and different things. So it's a case of what's proportionate for that event.
Brilliant.
Every event is a different threat.
Yeah, and the more events that happen, and the more positive press comes out about educating people and punishment to those that deserve it, then the less people are going to worry about the fact of what you're using, just be worried about the fact that they will get caught doing it, which is of course the education that needs to get out there. For anyone that might have lost signal there for a second, we did have a little blip on YouTube. Apologies there. The YouTube hamsters were running in their wheels and just got off for a moment to drink some more aviation gin. But they're back on. So if you've got a blurry picture at all, refresh your browser or your device, and it will come back. Rod Piker Drones UK, hi, good to see you in the chat. He is a Northern Ireland pilot, actually, I believe. And he was saying it sounds like your guest is from Northern Ireland, which he would be correct.
Yeah, I'm from Belfast.
Yes. Which is fantastic. And hi everybody in the chat, Thunderbird6, Matt Preston, good to see you. Legwork, great to see all of our channel members as well. If you're interested in becoming a channel member and getting the custom emojis and behind the scenes and the members podcast, all that type of thing, hit the join button. There's a link in the description to it as well. Starts from $1.99 a month and gets you the different levels, get you different access, etc. This week's members podcast guest is actually Lib, because there's a lot that people don't know about her, and she's a little bit different off camera, and I wanted to capture that side of her for everybody and have a good fun with her. The members
TikTok feed, because I went into that earlier and it was phenomenal. It's fantastic.
It's awesome, isn't it? She's such a talent. What I love about the members podcast is it's unedited. So if we mess up, it stays in. And we had a lot of fun with Matt Williams from Mr. MPW, who was our guest last week. And we had a bit of fun with that. We even started talking about my cats who invaded my studio and managed to get on camera. But I'm going to say that I'm never going to edit one of them. So you do see the glitches and all, which is good fun. It's an awful, it's great fun. Moving on, you were talking earlier about your fantastic recruitment process at Crowded Space Drones, which hasn't included Sean Hickey yet. But anyway, I'd like to play a little promotional video that gives a sneak hint at the end about one of your recent recruits, which is a fun little video, actually. I did have to redo the music, I would recommend anybody that should, again, the links are in the description, to follow Andrew at Crowded Space Drones on Twitter, Instagram, etc. Because the original music is so well edited, as you'd expect from a company that handles all of this cinematography. I think I might have butchered it a little bit, but that's what I had to do. Yes, the original with the
Andrew looks really out of context.
he does, because it almost, because obviously I did that earlier, and then I was playing it back before the show, and it's obviously too late for me to change. And I thought it makes him look really mean and fierce, doesn't it? Rather than, hey, Andrew's here. Those of you who have a keen eye, you may have spotted who that was right at the end, as Andrew Hamilton. He being the former head of drones at the CAA. Who is now a member of the team at Crowded Space Drones.
Before he joined the CA, he set up the first UK police drone unit in Devon and Cornwall,
right.
which is the first full-time unit, which now I think has sort of upwards of 70 drone pilots attached to it as police officers. So it's a really good. They then joined the CA and was essentially led in all the operational matters. So policy and operations are split a bit separately. And there's a great guy called Jerry who I believe still leads in the policy side, and then Andrew responsible for all the operational side.
So the police side in the UK, they're actually, they're all separate. So there's not one main, let's say, comes to drones, that they don't share it. It's just all over the place, is it?
There's some. We're more joined up. But as a nation, the police are more joined up on the counter side actually now. Following on from Gatwick and Heathrow and things. So there's stuff that's going on there that's national. In terms of national proactive drone use, not every force has a drone unit yet. So for example, one force that doesn't have one currently crashed theirs into a river previously, and the chief constable said never again. So
Ouch.
Other probably you can Google that and find out who it is. But no, the BTP, British Transport Police, are the sort of most national purely because they cover the transport network, and they have a drone unit, which we've flown alongside of different things like Reading Festival because we have a high-speed rail line side to side. But yeah, most forces are individual. Some are alliances. So, for example, Devon and Cornwall are called the Alliance, which is them in Dorset. Some up in north of England, I think Manchester still, they work with the fire service very hand in hand. So, the fire service can deploy to their instance and vice versa. I know Devon and Cornwall, their drone will deploy it for fire service because the fire service don't have a unit. So there's lots of interoperability between different emergency services.
Which is fantastic.
But yeah, there's national contracts for the supply of drones to police force to standardize it, but there's no national service to manage that whole thing for police.
Okay, yeah.
But I think we've got 42 police forces in the UK, so everyone.
Yeah. Because actually here in Finland, the Finnish police force, which is just one big national police force, and every city, every town, they all have drones.
Yeah.
All over the country.
Getting that way. I mean, most forces are now coming online with drones. Obviously, Northern Ireland and Scotland are dedicated police forces, so they have their own, national unit in that sense. But like we were doing stuff up in Cumbria, near Cartmel. It's a very small place in Cumbria, which does amazing sticky toffee pudding. Apparently, it's the home of sticky toffee pudding. It's really good. Try it. But they, the reason I like them so much is because their drones are neighborhood team based and response team based rather than a central unit as much.
Yes.
So they've trained people in every shift to use them.
And they actually have a drone car, don't they? They have a police unit that's actually their drone unit, which is, as you say, it's a specified unit, specialist officers.
I think that's the key thing of police is to get them out into patrol vehicles.
Yes.
So they can be quickly deployed.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you follow a lot of these police forces on Twitter like I do, you see some of the fantastic work they do where there's... Oh, have you? Can you hear me, Andrew?
I can hear you.
Okay. It might be your end then, Stephen. I can hear you, sir.
Okay, that's better. That's
okay.
better.
Okay. the gremlins are getting into the gin. Minnesota Drone in the chat did say that one night on Ken Dobo's show, if anybody doesn't know, that's original Dobo, and he instead of Drone News, he calls his live show Drone Brews. And they're always drinking different beers there. And I was fortunate enough to be a guest on there a couple of weeks ago. And he says, one night on there, and now you're drinking too. And he's doing his best to keep up. Thank you, Minnesota Drone.
That's what I said. Now you can go back on Ken's show, and now you can have the gin. Yes. And I'm sure Ken. But
I'm not competing. Ken, if you watch this back, or I know you're flying to Philadelphia, etc., so you'll be a very busy man today. I'm not competing. I'm still on the first glass, which. I think my Irish heritage is currently scorning at me right now. But
I do think we should get some ideas from listeners of drinking games for drone pilots.
You said that on Facebook, and I was like, oh no, here we go, drinking games. Perhaps every time we have a gremlin, we should drink.
I'll send you another bottle then.
Yeah, thanks. So Andrew Hamilton, who, as I say, the former drone head at the CAA, now with Crowded Space Drones, he is actually going to be a guest on one of our live shows in the first week of November, isn't it? That we're hoping to have him on.
The one we've got some stuff not about to come out, but to come out in November, which is all about sort of helping drone pilots understand some of the things that go on behind the scenes. So, for example, when you want to fly in London, there's a certain process you go through. A lot of people think it's just NATS involved in that, but there's actually a lot of other agencies involved. So we're doing some behind the scenes videos to explain what goes on there, as well as when you want to fly at airports and different things. So we want to explain and sort of debunk a lot of the myths that are out there.
Yes.
Because if you understand why people get frustrated when they're applying for permission for some of these areas, if they understand what the process is going through, I think they'll be fine with it, but they just need to understand what's going on.
And is this going to be in video form? Are you going to be bringing out videos to explain to people?
Free videos that basically debunk these.
Brilliant.
We're doing one with Network Rail about when you want to fly near railways. We're doing air traffic control. We're doing the Central London stuff with various different agencies. It's just to really educate people that things that Andrew's seen from his CA career and different things that where he was getting a lot of queries maybe before.
Yes.
We can just help out with people understanding that, because
I'm sure Andrew may get a few questions.
Is probably unsurpassed elsewhere in terms of getting to these places to speak to them.
No, indeed, and I'm sure Andrew will probably get a few questions when he's on with us as well. So it should be a fun show.
You have some, there's some things that are happening in the UK. I think Sean, I think I remember sent this photo to you that was found in Scotland, actually. So someone, this was on Facebook. I'm actually trying to find the picture that I sent to you, Sean. It was someone had stuck something on a shop window saying that you are not allowed to fly within 5 kilometers of this point, and if you don't, you'll be reported to Police Scotland. And it looked pretty legit, but of course.
It did look good, didn't it? It really did look good. But of course, it's completely debunked.
To an airport?
Yes,
I think it did actually say an airport.
Was.
Yeah. I think it was.
5 kilometers in the airport. Andrew Hamilton and I were both sitting looking at each other, going, "Yeah, it's not really the law, is it?"
No, yeah, exactly. But I think these are the things that are causing a lot of the problems within the community, is because they don't know. And when you have the negative aspect from the non-drone community, because there's such a negative, let's say, portrayal about drones, this doesn't help it. And I think this is what's making it worse in a sense, because people are putting up signs like this, and that's not just for that one person who's putting it up saying, I don't want drones here, but that's also telling the rest of public that, drones are bad. So you have this negative, it's just negative, and the drone community are actually suffering from it. And I think that there's a real root problem here. And that's something that you also have to kind of, let's say, compete as well.
Well, yes. So several things in that. So I think that whilst the European regulations coming in are a bit more confusing, it will actually help in terms of proving competency. And I think it will unlock access to more places by being able to prove you're a competent hobby pilot, an A2COC, because...
Competent. Do you hear that, everybody? Competent. I've just been called competent for the first time in my entire life.
It's the gin talking, don't worry. But if you're National Trust is sort of one of the people I'm not a huge fan of their approach to drones.
Yes, absolutely.
In terms of their, fair enough for they're taking off from their sites, but not in relation to the overflight wording they use. So I think that once their issues coming from the legal, so all these issues come typically from a legal department where they go, we want to indemnify ourselves from risk, therefore this is our policy. That's what policies and procedures are there for, to protect the company. So national trust base, I think things like that will help, because if you want to fly on a beach, this will prove competency, and they can say, well, look, we thought they were competent, they've taken a CAA based test.
Absolutely.
We're not negligent, we've checked for something. Because there's a thing called the Occupiers Liability Act, and that basically says that if you let them fly from your land without, it's your responsibility to check they're competent to do it. And if you don't check they're competent, you can be sued for any injuries just for letting them be in your land and not physically stopping them. So there's a piece of legislation people aren't aware called the Occupiers Liability Act, which covers that. In terms of councils, we have not an issue with councils, but we are aware of sort of more restrictions being added through lack of understanding of drone regulations. So we are doing a national project at the moment, which we can't say too much about, but we can say what it's for. We're working with a lot of councils to change their policies to reflect the current and upcoming law, so it's accurate. So it's not a case of saying, right, you can't overfly if, without our permission. It's a case of take off landing. That's the bit they need. We're also working with them for each council to try and identify a specific area of their land which they designate for drone use for hobbyists from a point of view. So, i.e., this is what park you can go to fly in. Like in London, the really good example is Richmond Park, because they have a flying field there.
I fly there regularly.
Yeah. So the key thing is have somewhere where you can facilitate rather than just prohibit. But have rules. So have a rule there. You have to be A2COC. Basically have these in the approaches on the entrance points to say you have to comply with these to fly there. That then covers them if you don't comply. So we're working with that to do that with lots of councils. So I think I don't want to say for sure, but I think that the sign in Scotland was a council sign. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yes, it was Lanarkshire. It was actually Lanark.
That's right.
It was North Lanarkshire Council.
Yeah.
And it says here that flying of drones prohibited anywhere within 5 kilometres of this location. Failure to comply may result in a maximum fine of £2,000 and a 5-year prison sentence.
Ouch. that would put you off the hobby pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
What we want to see with councils is they have a clear policy for use, whereby they ideally designate a site which is they deem as the lowest risk site for hobbyists. So I don't think from their side of this argument, you can't expect to fly everywhere as a hobbyist. There's going to be, if you're given somewhere to fly, that's better than nowhere.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's lots of other things going on in parks, and so it's quite complex for a council to say, right, use this site and make it publicly known. But it's a positive thing that they do this, and that's why we're pushing this. On the flip side of that, we want a very clear process. If you want to fly in a park, or you want to set up a flying club in a park, we want to, within what we're doing, we're making a very clear process of how you apply for that and how that is treated by the council. The key thing is the councils don't have drone experts internally typically, so we're giving them essentially Andrew Hamilton, who's reputable as the ex-head of drones at CAA.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
Be able to say them, this is what the law says. So this is what you shouldn't really set your bar above the law. If you set your bar as the law, as the minimum standard of the law, then you're protected in law from any claims in relation to that, as long as these procedures are followed. And it's just the issue with councils is purely previous legal services saying we don't know about this risk, we don't understand it, therefore stop it. And that's what it is. So we're trying to enable access like that. There's some councils that are just we've done undercover work whereby we have some of the councils who have terrible rules. We'll send them emails and apply for permission just to see where they're standing in this.
Just to see what response you get.
And we're like, really, they asked for that, or they think this is the rules, because we think they should ask for what the law is, not for a really higher level package of
that's
what
right.
Like
I'm
fly people at all.
This is where I think where this is complete madness, because if you have a drone operator, let's say that I know lots of companies who maybe want to fly there, and they make it so difficult for you to get permission to fly. You have to go through certain processes. That's not really helping the economy either. that's bad for business. Surely they should, surely the rules and regulations should be in a way supporting the companies in order to make it easy for them to get permission, so that they spend less time doing documentation and more time flying.
Yes.
But it seems to be that life is made very, very difficult for the drone companies in the UK. Especially where that's from that point of view. Then you have the hobbyist point of view. I don't understand where you have the National Trust and you have all these other all these other organisations where you say that you cannot fly. They've got, they have potential for free advertising, because a lot of the drone pilots are artists because they know how to take pictures. So they're taking pictures, they're posting them on Instagram, posting them on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And they're showing all these places that people haven't seen before from a certain point of view, going, this is incredible. I want to go there. I want to see that. But, you can't. But so I think there's something missing.
Well, I've actually often thought that they're missing a trick by not designating certain times of day, and then just letting public know that actually, if you come here really early or really late, towards golden hour, you are going to see drone flight. If you don't want that, then actually come outside of those times. And as you say, I think they would gain a lot more visitors. And there would be a lot more free advertising out there. And I think you could mix that with what Andrew's saying about the A2CFC and that type of thing. And again, say, if you have this level of qualification, because that is one of the things I'm looking forward to. That's why I've already taken mine and passed. Yay, 100%. Thank you. Competent. I'm designated competent. Thank you, because I get a lot of places. I'm what I call a permission flyer. I like to ensure that where I'm flying, the people there know I'm flying, and of course then I get to get much closer to the buildings, etc., and take some better pictures. And some of the places I've gone to have said, actually, you need to be a PFCO and that type of thing, and then we'd be happily. But the A2CFC I see as a way of opening that up a little bit more, and it's going to be a recognised certificate that people can trust, essentially.
Well, I see that. So there's two sides to that for me. Is first, just coming back to your point about the opening up and sort of people, the marketing side. So one of my main issues in National Trust is we have things like, there was a YouTuber conference usually held annually in Belfast where they bring American YouTubers and vloggers, etc. across. They go to National Trust sites. National Trust say, work away, fly your FPV, fly your drones, because they know they're going to get. But then when they say the hobbyists, so these guys aren't licensed in the UK to do commercial work or nothing, but they're just told, right, let loose on these sites. And then the locals are told, oh no, you can't, without permission, you're without paying us, you can't do it. And I think that's the issue we're trying to target with what we're doing in this, is making it a fair rule for all, because it's probably safer for a local to do it, but purely from the point of view of knowing the area and knowing the risks involved, than somebody's just coming there for 2 hours.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Why are they penalised? That shouldn't happen. And secondly, in terms of the one thing we're worried about why we're trying to do this council work is, can you hand on heart say you understand every ounce of the European regulations come in? So if you don't understand it as a drone person in full and detail, how does the council or how does the National Trust? So our concern is that they will get overloaded come January with the new regulations and not understanding them, and it'll just lock down. And that's what we're trying to avoid here.
Excellent. Yeah. A couple of things coming up in the chat, actually, which we can work through. Lindsay Hayes has brought up a subject which I get sent to me an awful lot. I get videos sent to me which are unlisted or they're on one of the sites that can remain private, not necessarily on YouTube, or people's flights, and they say, this is what I've done previously, and I'm concerned that now I can't do them, and when the new rules come in, I won't be able to as well. And Lindsay's particularly bringing up SSSI's site of special scientific interest, which obviously is particularly protected. But then you've got things like Sugarloaf Whales and other open expanses that people just aren't able to fly, which I have some sympathy for. I think site of special scientific interest obviously have specific reasons and protections there, and are very specific to the different areas. But I do feel slightly for people that when you're in an undulating area of open land and the 400 rule is unable to be breached whatsoever, they just can't get the footage that they've been able to in the past. And it's very difficult. And I think the key for the next few years is going to be the hobby coming together with regulators and finding that middle ground, so that everybody can live with and enjoy the hobby, basically.
From an enforcement side, the key thing you need to consider there is, let's take SSIs, is primary law and secondary law. So primary law in relation to drone flights is the Air Navigation Order. There's a few other bits around the commercial or the Civil Aviation Act 1982, I think it is. There's a few other bits, but the Air Navigation Orders are primary legislation at the moment in the UK in terms of drone flights. SSIs are secondary legislation. So no one, as far as we're aware, has been prosecuted for a drone flight under secondary legislation.
Absolutely.
Very few have even been prosecuted under primary legislation. So the key thing you need to consider with SSIs are, if you are lawfully flying a drone, is it possible to breach that legislation? So if you're 50 meters away from the birds, is it possible to breach that legislation? And the reality is, it's probably not. Because if that's the distance the government has said is safe to be away from people in non-congested areas, if you're complying with that, they would have to show negligence on your part to prove the SSI offence. So whenever people bring up SSIs and things like that, I get very well. Yeah, look, if you're lawfully flying, no matter if you're a hobbyist or commercial user, if you're lawfully flying, you shouldn't be breaching that as long as you're sticking to your permission, because the government has said this is okay for you to do.
Absolutely.
Because it's not, the government saying, well, in that location you can do this. You're saying across the whole of the UK. Obviously, when you're like an OSC holder like us, and you're flying very like several meters rather than tens of meters away from someone or something, we have to take those into extra consideration.
Yes.
But if you're flying under standard permissions or hobbyist permissions, you will not breach an SSI if you lawfully fly.
Perfect.
And this is a common misconception, and it's used by people like other agencies like Heritage England and a few to try and sort of prevent drone flights and scare you off to an extent. But yeah, no, really, it's you cannot be prosecuted under secondary legislation for a drone flight if you're complying with their navigation.
Excellent. And that's what I'm looking forward to with your project launching in November with Andrew Hamilton, with the type of subject matter you're going to be able to come across. And of course, it's going to be coming from such a qualified side of things, which, as I say, that's why you will continue to hear things about credit space drones on Geeksvana in the future, because it's the positivity of the two sides coming together in such a healthy way, which is just going to spread education. Frankly, it's going to be so phenomenal for the hobby. I did notice that Matt Preston,
in terms of areas you can't fly, in terms of, I think it was the mountains of Wales mentioned or something there. Before, I can't remember what the location was.
Sugarloaf, Wales.
So
National Trust.
My view, and also our view to an extent, is there's very few places without enough prior planning you can't fly. So, like, for example, last week we had a flight crew out jumping in and out of danger areas of restricted airspace and having to manage that with them and things, and get permissions on a very active basis on as it was happening, because they were being activated and not activated. So with enough planning, you can do lots of things. The issue is turning up on a day and expecting to fly in an area where there's restrictions.
Yes,
but with
absolutely.
planning, and I appreciate the weather can change, but you have to account for that. And when we send an email to someone asking for permission for a restricted airspace, we say subject to weather. This is our backup day. So it's plans do change. You can't guarantee to be somewhere just because the weather is going to hold up for you.
But managing to spill alcohol.
There's very few locations you can't, without enough planning, and also knowing how to ask the right questions and who to ask them to, which doesn't take much understanding to actually work that out, who you'd ask for, because some of the people you're asking for permission from aren't the person who actually gives the permission. They may not understand it. So it's always key to get through to the right person who is responsible and maybe knows more about drones because they've written the policy, etc. So if everyone has a specific area that they have problems with, that they think they should lawfully be able to fly in, there's obviously some areas of mountain ranges like the McQuillan and things where there's military restrictions there. It's going to be really hard. It's not impossible, but it's really hard. But in terms of generally, there's lots of national authorities like Dartmoor came in with a ban on drone use on Dartmoor, but have mellowed. And if you apply for it and tell them where and when, and it could be just drawing a map and say in this box at these times, they just, if you just say I want to fly a drone in Dartmoor, they don't know where you're going to be.
No,
so give them a flight plan of where you're going to fly, even for a hobbyist.
Yeah.
It's approximate, it doesn't be exact. That really helps.
Indeed. Matt Preston mentions that flying in Richmond Park is quite difficult, and I hear they're bringing in paid parking, which is odd for a royal park. I fly there regularly myself, actually, Matt. We should meet up, and I can perhaps help you out there a little bit. I tend to find it's okay. One thing, and again, as Andrew's saying, it is about setting it up sometimes as well, because I always call the rangers the day before I intend to go down there, because sometimes there can be things happening with the deer and that type of thing, and locations and issues they're having, and they can say, and they're really good. They're actually very helpful, very open people, and they will say, actually, it's not the best day because of X, Y, Z happening, and then you can work with them on that. Again, there's still nothing stopping you from still going down there and flying, of course, but that whole thing of trying to set the flight up can help as well. But shoot me an email or something, Matt, and we can try and meet up and fly the field. It's a date. There you go, with kisses. Okay, it's not that kind of date, Matt. I know I'm on the aviation gin tonight, but it is really not.
But if he buys you some aviation gin, maybe.
he's taking advantage of you, that's all.
Yeah,
because you've got some gin, that's all.
Who knows? Jay Santiago says...
list of all the alcohol you now want.
Yeah, that's right. It's like you will now see my slow descent as the weeks go by.
If anyone wants to contact us and reach out through yourselves or direct to us about a specific area they're having problems with, we'll happily give them a bit of advice. We're not here to... We're here to help people.
Yeah, and again, with the project you've got coming in November, that's very much you guys are wanting to put yourselves out there to say, hey, let's have this conversation. Let's get these misconceptions sorted, basically, and let's get us flying. Let's, hobbyists and professionals alike. Let's get us out there flying. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Understanding. It's once you get everyone on the same playing field about what drones can do and what the problems are and what the law says, everyone usually gets a compromise quite straightforward.
Yes, exactly. NOTAMs, Wilderness Detour is saying, what about NOTAMs which are a guide to be aware of?
I wouldn't call them a guide.
No.
They're there to tell manned aviation that you exist and you're flying there.
Yes.
Now, there's an issue whereby not all flights below 400 feet would be granted them by the CAA, which is a sort of problem. But when we get to the unmanned or the unified traffic management down the road in 2 or 3 years, that's where we're going to solve that problem. The one thing I'm massive adamant, and we all use in our flights, is drone assist. Whether it's through a NOTAM or through just entry it into the app, drone assist is a fantastic tool. I mean, I haven't come across any app that we love as much as drone assist. I wish it would be expanded out, because the problem is, just remember, drone assist, the pilots who are flying aircraft above you or near you don't see that.
Yes,
they don't have a pilot version of that. There's no,
Indeed.
So we actually we have something similar here in Finland. It's called Avia Maps, and actually the pilots use it. It's used by pilots. It's used by helicopter pilots. It's used by drones. Drone pilots, and then also used by glider pilots, and we all announce our flights.
That's where we need to get to.
Yeah,
I think we will get there as well. I mean, operator IDs are the way to enable that for the very first step, because then you know who's responsible for that drone.
Yes.
But it's a sort of UTM issue that is going to be coming into play. But the one thing I would tell people, and I've told people this in a few other things recently, if you're flying in a geographic area, like if you live in a town and you're flying around the town, if you have like an air ambulance, reach out to them, talk to them, because they may say, right, well, if you're flying these locations, let us know. And this is how to do it.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah. And same general aviation, find your nearest, not necessarily airports, but, GA clubs, general aviation flying clubs, and just say to them, where do you guys normally fly or practice or whatever? And just liaise with them, because air ambulance guys love to see our drones coming down and sort of have a look at them.
I know. Actually, one of my pilots is actually a helicopter pilot for the Finhems. He works for the air ambulance here as well. And I live right here in the city, and there's a hospital about 2 kilometers, maybe one and a half, maybe 2 kilometers away. And where I fly, they do fly over, and our height limit is 150 meters here. But as soon as I hear them, I bring it down. But if I'm flying near that area, if I'm flying, which is actually no fly zone, but I actually get permission. But if I fly, I can just phone the guy at the hospital, and I could just tell him that I'm flying, and if there's any traffic coming in, he would just send me a text message. And he's really cool. So the attitude here is actually good, because we are transparent. We announce our flights. They know where we are. We put our phone numbers on there. So if there's something, they can just contact us.
I mean, we've got this sort of massive database that our pilots use when we go out. So we've got all the direct numbers for all their ambulances. So we phone what's called the air desk, or email them if we have prior notice of the flight, and tell them where we're going to be and give them the flight map. It's the same for police and for various other different helicopter teams and things. I mean, realistically, the only people we sort of focus heavily on are Coast Guard, police, and air ambulance, because they're the below 400 feet users. Yeah. Everyone else shouldn't really be below 400 feet unless they're approaching or landing, etc. But yeah, it's even one of our council contracts. There's an application to put a heliport into that town by the sea. And the heliport will come near where we fly for events. So actually, we've jumped on the consultation process for that and are working with them in terms of helping them design their heli approach. So when we have flights down there for that council, neither of us conflict. And that's the key thing, is everyone wants to talk to you, because in Northern Ireland, if you're a Northern Ireland pilot, there's what's called the Northern Ireland Airspace Users Group, which meets every quarter, I think it is. And that's just any drone pilots can go to that. And
That's
it brings you into contact with everyone else. They exist all over the UK. They're typically run by the RAF, and they will use it regionally. But you can find details online for various of them. But they'll happily let you come along. You'll hear what everyone else is doing. They'll understand what you're doing, and it's really good. It's also a free lunch.
That's very good. I'm there. When I heard free lunch, I'm sold. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Andrew. It's been a fascinating chat, and as I say, CSD Crowded Space Drones are always welcome back, and we look forward to having Andrew Hamilton, the other Andrew from Crowded Space Drones, on in November.
It's almost like they've got an Ashley who used to be head of drones at Gatwick and things. Like, you must have an A in your first name.
That's right. But it's a fantastic team you're building, and it's great to see such innovation and a company growing the way that your company's growing, but also looking to educate everyone and create that level playing field and that fair field for us all to continue flying. So thank you for all of your work in that side of things. And as I say, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I will let you go in, and this must be past your bedtime by now.
I normally, because I think I said to you before, I haven't watched until recently. Actually, I haven't been watching your shows because, it's sort of I don't want to sound like an old person, but when we do lots of early morning shouts.
Yes, no, I can imagine. Exactly.
But when I can't be flying tomorrow morning, because one thing I should say is never ever drink and fly.
Yes.
So I will be flying early tomorrow morning. But thanks for having me on, and it's good to have the sort of the transparency opportunity in terms of telling you what we do. I mean, I know we've invited you whenever we do have events post-COVID. We've invited you along to some of those to see what we do and do some video around that. Because one thing that I get annoyed about in drones is manned aviation are really good at having the safety culture, and that's before commercialisms for everyone. Drones not so much, because more individual operators. I get that. I get why it's like that. But we want to try and push it back to having a bigger safety culture and people talking to each other, because we may be doing something that you think, oh, that's really good for my flights, or vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely.
My street. So we want to try and bring that into it, because I think that's what's missing, and I think everyone could be.
I'm so excited.
Help the industry along for more as well.
Absolutely, and just the way that when I first found out about you guys on the York Racecourse side of things, and then everything I found out since, it's just fantastic, because it's going to push things in the right direction, and it's going to bring the control back to the hobby, the control back to the people actually flying the drones, and I'm very excited about things from that point of view. So thank you, sir, and we'll see you very soon, and ask Andrew Hamilton to wear his hard hat when he as the former CAA drone.
Because I do want to see how far down that bottle you get.
It might not go that much further, actually.
Will it still be there when Andrew Hamilton comes on in a month?
Actually, no, because my other half is waiting to take control, I think. Bless her. So, and I've anyone that saw me mopping up earlier, I've actually started to spill it already. So it's not looking good.
But yeah, any drone drinking games, I'd love to hear suggestions for that. And
Yes.
if anyone's got like drone drinks they've found or anything, or drone drinking receptacles, again, I don't have a problem, but it just would be quite fun.
Yeah, and everybody hit up Andrew on his socials because they are a lot of fun. Any kind of drone receptacle, etc. Do tag us both in your post, because it will be fascinating to see, because then we'll probably go buy it as well, actually. So it sounds like another collection. I've got enough problems with Xbox controllers and Star Wars collections and drone collections and everything else, but there we go. Wonderful. Well, we'll see you again very soon, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Cheers.
Let me press this button. See, now that's where that's where the gin isn't helping, because I'm not as quick on my buttons tonight. It's probably because I'm just very, very tired. I'm sure that's what it is, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it probably is, yes.
It probably is. Now, I need to fix this window capture. So tonight, for the rest of the show, we're going to be talking in a moment, again, on subject, as far as... There you go. We get half of Stephen tonight. on subject this evening, we're going to be talking next a little bit more about the report that was on Geeksvana this week regarding the so-called labelled drone pilots, and we'll be having a look at that. Before we play that, a clip out from my video from earlier in the week with the important parts of the information for anybody that missed it. Hi to Wilderness Detour. Thank you so much for your £5 super chat. Good show tonight. ATB from Jamie. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. But here is a short excerpt from my video earlier in the week, which will just let you know what we're about to talk about. Appeal was put out by Chris Rainford of Lancashire Fire and Rescue in the UK on Twitter. The post appeared straightforward. Chris was expressing his frustration that the service drone was unable to take flight. The post reads, a couple of pics from the derelict pub fire in Ormskirk last night. Rogue drone in the area prevented us from flying for at least 30 minutes. Seems the message isn't getting through. The post continues with a plea in capitals surrounded by 2 red-faced emojis. Keep away from emergency service incidents. The tweet also tagged Lancashire Fire Service. On the face of it, this seems quite a reasonable request. Drones are becoming a key piece of hardware deployed in fire and rescue services work throughout the UK. Certainly, no reasonable, responsible drone operator, whether they are hobbyist or professional, would wish to hinder any form of emergency service response to an incident. The post received a lot of support online, including many retweets from other fire service accounts. However, there was also another type of response to the post which became popular on social media. Those posts questioned whether or not the so-titled rogue drone flyer was actually deserving of the title. Drone flyers took to social media to request more information. Now, Geeksvana's own checks confirms there was no temporary danger area via NOTAM, and the area itself was not within a congested area or a restricted flight zone. Without knowing where the drone flyer took off from and background details, it would appear the flight was essentially legal. It should be noted that we, nor any of the posts that I have read, call into doubt the valid reasons why fire service drones should gain priority during an active incident. Certainly, we all support the work carried out, and the use of thermal technology in this way saves lives and limits property damage. If you're flying close to an emergency situation attended by EMS, then you should carefully consider if the flight is necessary. The issue many are raising is how the drone flight... Okay, so as you can hear there, apologies if that was actually on loop. You may have heard that more than 1.5 times there. We'll blame Andrew and the aviation gin. Yes. Because I was actually just having a little chat with Stephen backstage. So with the rogue drone side of things, this was the idea of this video was really to highlight, from my point of view, the language used, and because you had a professional pilot, of course, EMS situation. No one wants drone hobbyists flying near fires, etc. When there are professional drones in the air to do a job. But of course, my issue was that drone pilot didn't necessarily know, and that type of thing. I have heard feedback since that the drone pilot in question was actually flying dangerously, but again, I haven't had that confirmed. I can't give that as an absolute fact. But I know you wanted this one included in tonight to mention a couple of things.
Yeah, I think I think that when you see a fire, when you see an emergency which is happening nearby, I really don't think that you should be flying at all. I think that is a sign that you should be getting out of the way, because not just if the emergency services are flying their own drone, but if the emergency service have to get there by helicopter, which is something which is very common.
I think I completely agree with you, and as I said in the video, and almost everybody that's commented, and thank you so much anyone who did comment on that, that it is something which every drone enthusiast would agree with, that you really should not be anywhere near that situation. However, technically, there was nothing to suggest that this chap's flight was illegal. And certainly from the airspace he was using and everything else like that. And of course, my other issue is that not every drone hobbyist knows that the fire service are going to be putting up a drone. And if again, I was only going on the original tweet and really trying to say, actually, that's not the way to have the conversation. The way to have the conversation
of course not.
is the same way as Andrew just has with crowded space drones, and actually use education and try and bring people into it. But there are ways to set up NOTAMs for that kind of situation and temporary danger zones, and perhaps there's a role for the Nats app as well.
That's why when you have a drone user, whether it's something which they're doing professionally or whether it's something they're doing from the hobby point of view, this is why announcing your flights and having your details is very important, because if you are flying in the area, you might not even see the fire. You might not even know there's a fire in the area. Absolutely. Because where you are, you might not see anything. You might smell something, but you're not going to might think that there's a huge fire somewhere. But at least they will have let's say they will have the ability to contact you to say, look, if you're flying your drone, do you mind not flying for the next 3 hours or something or whatever?
Yes, exactly.
But at the same time, if you're driving down the street and you look in your mirror and you see, if you see an ambulance or you see a fire engine, the first thing you're going to do is get out of the way.
Indeed. Yeah. But again, that isn't necessarily and a drone pilot flying in a field next to something. And I'm not suggesting that the drone pilot was flying correctly. I know there's been follow-ups that there might have been issues there. I'm just talking about the original tweet and the message that it sent. Again, we need to protect people when they are flying legally and educate through common sense. The issue with expecting the growing drone flying community to everyone to fly by common sense, that just isn't going to happen, which is why unified traffic management is going to happen and why it will be a good thing. But what we need to do is bridge the gap now between here and there to be able to bring everyone together and make it, a community-driven thing where we all know what's going on.
Exactly.
And whether that's through unofficial NOTAMs like the Nats app alerts, which can ping to local people, but that I think would help.
Well, we had an incident here last year in Finland, up about 2 hours from Helsinki, where there was a big fire. Which was happening at a factory, and it was really quite big. And there was someone who was nearby, and they had a drone, and they put the drone up, and they were filming it, and they posted it on Facebook, on one of the drone Facebook, and I just commented. I said that I think that this was very, very irresponsible to be flying in that area so near and filming it, and to make matters worse, the local television station I contacted that person and used their footage in the news. So it made the person look like a bit of a hero in a sense, because he was going, my footage is getting used and blah blah blah.
Yes,
and I was like, this is the wrong message to be putting out here. It shouldn't, you shouldn't be celebrating because, and when I said this, of course, this was a Finnish group, and of course I was the one who's speaking in English, and people know me anyway. In a sense, I had 98% of the support. By saying that the guy was out of order in a sense, exactly. But he was still adamant that he done the right thing, and and it's not that they were, because I know that they would have been using drones, but it was the fact that they could have been using helicopters. that is the most important thing, you know. But you know,
indeed. But again, it's finding a way for everybody to share these skies. And Mike Miller, who's one of our members in the chat and a moderator, is saying in the US, if there is an emergency situation, fire, car crash, a poodle pees on an electrical socket, you cannot fly a drone near it at all. And to me, I like that kind of clarity, and I know that is the case with the FAA in the States, that if any emergency situations happen, stay away. Recent air crashes that have happened there, and there have been drones happening. Those drone pilots were dealt with very quickly. So it's you know, that to me gives something definitive. My issue with this particular story was the angry faces and the message isn't getting through and type approach, because actually, technically the drone pilot's not doing anything wrong. So, but if you had put a NOTAM in place, or if there was another way of, or if they got together with the other police forces, etc., and found a way of having very quick reactionary NOTAMs put in place, then actually there is an enforceable situation there. So then when that drone is flying, they are able to call up the local constabulary, who can come down and have a chat with the pilot, and it's dealt with. So I don't necessarily see everything should be on the drone hobbyist side to always think what should and could happen. So, but
have you heard of CESAR?
No.
CESAR is the Single European Sky ATM research. So this was and I'll send you a link for that, and you can have a look at it.
I have seen that actually. Yeah.
And there was a lot of this was part of Horizon 2020, and I said, I actually before that. So there was a lot of you had Volocopter doing all the tests and all the rest of it. So we had one big project happening here, and it was called the Gulf U-Space, and that was the Gulf of Finland U-Space, and this was part of the CESAR. And I was in one of those projects, the one that we had here. In fact, it was just literally 5 steps from my door, awesome. Which was fantastic. And what handy. We were doing, we had 3 UTMs. We had Frequentis, we had Altitude Angel, and we had AirMap. We had those 3 UTMs, and all the drone companies, we had to integrate with these UTMs. And in the park, in fact, it was a park where I was doing the stuff with AR and that part there. So we had about 7 companies that were flying all their drones. I was flying 2 M210s.
Awesome.
At one time, and we had it linked with a fleet management, and there was other companies, and the place was completely noisy, full of drones. It was incredible, and the police had integrated, so they basically set up a no-fly zone, and this was on demand, and they brought this in, and we had drones flying in the air. So we had 2 drones flying, and then when they put the no-fly zone into place, our drones automatically.
Yeah, which is perfect, which will happen in the future with UTM, but we do need that backup, and I just don't want to see too many drone hobbyists picked on.
No, but in the meantime, we need of course, but there is. I mean, that technology is in place now. Okay, it's not in place, but it's there. It does exist.
Although there's still a battle, isn't there, between U-Space and the American system to see which will come to market first and which will. It's almost like there's a little bit of VHS. Betamax type sort of system battle going on. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I do have a video coming out on that, which I've been working on, which is a very long video. So I need to get it edited to be much shorter, frankly. But thank you for that, Stephen. It's good to get your views on that. And that's one of the things here with Drones and Tech, from the point of view that myself and Stephen, we do get on. We agree on many things, but we also like to have these debates and discuss some of the subjects which come up on the channel from the point of view of our different perspectives. And obviously from my hobbyist point of view and Stephen's professional pilot point of view, it's an absolutely fantastic two-sided conversation. Now, you have recently acquired a new piece of equipment, the DJI Mavic Air 2.
Yes, I have. I got myself... I actually gave in because people have been talking about this so much, and awesome. I know you have one as well, and I thought I'll just go for it because I do have a Mavic 2 Pro. Okay,
don't start getting out all your drones, will you? Because I'll get drone envy.
I have my Phantom 4 down here as well, and I thought I'd go for this, and I was actually quite impressed. But what really got me was the video. I think actually the video is actually I mean, this is something which I'm quite blown away with, actually, and I think that this will be my go-to for video now in the future. I think even as much as I love the Mavic 2 Pro, I think this is going to be my video. And the images, I've been using the 48 megapixel images, and I'm not wholly convinced yet. We're having kind of issues here with the weather that I think we're getting a lot of this smoke that's coming in from California.
Okay, yes.
And it's really high in the atmosphere, and I think it's having an effect on the sky. So I'm not sure if my images are somehow dependent on that.
Getting contaminated in some way, yeah. No,
yes.
Indeed.
So I'm kind of on the fence at the moment, because I think that we're, because I mean, the skies are a bit kind of, let's say, odd at the moment, and, and I think that's got something to do with it. So I'm going to leave my judgment
a little bit more time, yes, because some of the stuff you've been posting is absolutely fantastic. And it's interesting how the Mavic Air 2 has eaten into some of the marketplace of the Mavic 2 Pro and Zoom, from the point of view that I hear more and more of pilots that are leaving those larger birds at home and using the Air 2. Obviously, the larger birds have a little bit more wind stability, which feels incredible. Yeah. But the Air 2 does seem to be a very well-rounded drone. Now, of course, we do have another drone around the corner from DJI. People who would have seen my recent video. Yes. There's an FCC filing for what is going to be what we think is an updated Mavic Mini. Call it the Mavic Mini 2 or whatever they're going to title it. I'd be very interested in the chat, actually. If you could put a 1 in the chat if you currently own a Mavic Mini and you are not going to upgrade, even if it is 4K, OcuSync, etc. And a 2 in the chat if you're either going to buy the Mavic Mini 2 new or upgrade to it if it does have things like 4K and OcuSync, etc. Now, one of the things I'd be really interested to hear what people's thoughts are on that. I will start off by putting a big 2 there, actually, because I think I am probably very, very interested. One of the things I'm interested in, actually, is we've had a lot of people talking about, it needs to be 4K. Andrew McQuillan's put a 3 in there. Yeah, thank you. That's the gin talking. Andrew McQuillan doesn't need a Mavic Mini 2. That's why.
It's his third bottle.
And Agent K putting a number 3. Thank you. That's the beauty of the Geeksvana audience. I love you guys.
You guys.
Because I'm interested with if it has 4K, OcuSync, this, that, front sensors, that type of thing. It's going to start bumping into even the Mavic Air 2 audience, but they don't seem to worry about that at the moment. So that makes me think actually it's probably going to have quite a lot of spec. The battery power is lighter. Go for it.
I have one request: raw pictures.
Did you know the amount of photographers that have said that to me, particularly on Facebook, where you tend to get more of the photography crew than the video crew? The raw is something. Raw files is something they're all saying. Even if their existing Mini had raw files, they would love it even more. It would make it a really fantastic tool for their businesses, because so many people use the Mavic Mini in their profession, which I find really interesting. And obviously an updated version would be even better. But I'm interested to see what happens. It should be around early November, I think, that we're going to find out something. Would be my prediction. It's again, I would be surprised if it's not a Mavic Mini upgrade of some type, because the released drawing showing the label area is literally the Mavic Mini turned upside down with the door open, and very close comparison. There's only very slight changes. But I wonder, I don't know about you, Stephen, but I wonder if it's going to become more of an iPhone type update situation with this, because it's only a year since this little drone was brought to us, and I fear and I wonder if it's going to start becoming an iPhone thing, that we'll start seeing an upgrade each year with an iteration rather than anything dramatic.
Well, my concern is, where is the update for the 2? Where is this? I would like to have a larger sensor than the 1-inch sensor. Yes. One of my main issues at the moment is that with the Mavic Air 2 is that it's a fixed aperture. That's kind of drawn me back, especially with the photography wise. So the fixed aperture, I have no control over the aperture. This is my this is my photography tool now. I cannot get away from it. I love it so much.
I've actually cut your head off, and it's frustrating me, because because you've got a lovely head of hair.
I do.
we
But one
should
thing
try.
I've been using as well, I have been using the new remote, and I actually quite like it. I've had it for over a week and a half now, and I
Yeah.
haven't synced it with my smart controller yet.
Oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
still using this. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it actually. It's actually.
I completely agree with you. I was one of the haters when I saw the leaked photos of the Mavic Air 2, and I thought that controller just looks so big. It was actually one of the reasons why I wondered if it was going to be the right controller, because on the original concept versions, which were in the leaked photos, I wondered if that was actually a test bed that could operate multiple DJI concept craft, so because it was so big and bulky. But actually, now I've had it in my hands, it is incredible, and it's
very comfortable.
instinctive.
It is because I've done one drone shoot last Friday, the one where I was shooting with the other drone.
Yes,
And I done it all the Mavic Air 2, and it was great.
no, indeed. And I think it will be interesting to see if we ever do get, I'm not going to say that, Mavic 3, if we ever do get that, and to see what actually happens from that point of view would be interesting.
My next video, actually, my next video will be my own opinion on the Mavic Air 2. And what I've done is I've actually taken some data. I've actually put some AI from what I've been doing with this. So I've pushed all this data through an AI.
Awesome.
And I have all that to show. So
brilliant.
That was going to be one of my next video.
And there is there's a link in the description to Stephen's channel. Please go and support it. The Flyby guys, you're going to see some unique content on there, and actually some as well as this show, of course, some more collaboration stuff between the two of us as well, which is going to be interesting. Andrew McQuillan, who is this guy in the chat? AirSense is a big consideration for us buying further Mavic series, so we made it wait until that is available rather than US only. No, indeed, and that was one of the comments that I got for the Mini 2 reveal video, that people were actually asking, surely we should get the AirSense sorted on the European Air 2 models first. I actually wonder if that's going to happen. I know they say they want to, and every consumer drone will have it, but I do wonder whether that can actually happen. So. So yeah, one thing I wanted to let everybody know about is that at 1 a.m. UK time tonight, which is 7 p.m. Central, you can hop over to Ken Heron's channel and enjoy the joys of Thursday Night Live. Tonight, his guest is going to be someone that many of us in the community know well, Chris Hope, who is an absolutely fantastic supporter of the community. You see him around a lot of the live streams, etc. He's an absolutely fantastic guy, and I'm really looking forward to the show. And Kelly Green is the co-host tonight, as I was saying. And finally, I would just like to address gaming consoles as the tech thing for us this evening. And apart from the fact that you have some dirt on your t-shirt, you'll notice I've changed the angle as well, so we can no longer see the PlayStation logo.
Very
on
cunning.
your t-shirt. Yes, indeed. And the Xbox one here, but actually this is a little bit of a faux pas, and one of the things that annoys me about the Xbox brand. Did you hear about the issues over pre-ordering and ordering the wrong Xbox?
I did.
I have my Xbox Series X winging its way to me, I'm very happy to say, as do a lot of my friends, so we're going to be having some fun with that. But the issue here, of course, is that people buying them for other people, so the parents buying it for the kid, or partners buying it for each other, that type of thing. When you search for the Xbox Series X, the Xbox One X also came up. So when the Xbox Series X was out of stock, people were ordering, and of course getting very quick delivery of the Xbox One X, which has been a real headache for a lot of retailers. And in fact, now I've noticed that Amazon, when you search for the Xbox Series X, certainly in the UK, now actually block Xbox One X from the search criteria, which is a good idea, because they're not having to deal with so many cancelled orders and that type of thing. But I have to say, one of the things that I'm disappointed in is the naming, because I have an Xbox Series One S and X. In fact, mine's one of the first ones when they still called it the release ones, when they called it Project Scorpio. So at least it has a slightly different name, but it's a strange naming situation. When you look at the PlayStation, PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, guess what's next?
Well, we know what's next.
Yeah.
We know what's next. We don't even
Yeah.
have to say because we just know.
That's right.
But that's
There
the
is a
fun and games with the
simplicity to it.
Xbox because you don't know what it's going to be because that is the main thing.
Yes, but it's frustrating because I really feel for people, and one thing I would say is anybody who has pre-ordered and it's been pre-ordered for you as a present, check what's been ordered because there are a lot of people out there that have a Xbox One X under the tree, which is a phenomenal 4K gaming machine,
Yes.
but not quite the Series X actually. And it was interesting to see the disparity between pre-orders running out on the Xbox One X and in fact crashing some retailers. And Microsoft still now banging out the Series S, so you can still buy this one.
My only concern is, do I get the disc version or discless version? That's all I have to think about
For the PS5.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, or whether you get the bad version, which is the PS5, or whether you go for a proper gaming console like the Xbox Series X.
Okay. If you put in the chat, everyone, if you're an Xbox lover, you put number 1. If you're a PS5, then put number 2. Or put number 5.
No, number 2. And you realised it as it went through your head, didn't you? You realised that you were about to call the PS5 number 2. It's beautiful. It's perfect, in fact, I would say. Well done, sir. I'm going to turn to my gin. Take another sip. I did get a request, actually.
Oh, you did?
In the chat. Mike Miller, I have both. You're just showing off. That's how much we've got through this evening. Not a lot, but actually for someone who doesn't drink, that's decent. It's a decent start. I'm not sure. I've had to block my face for the focus. There you go. I think it's a decent start. I have very moody lighting in my studio, so anything outside of exactly where I'm sat is very dark, which I like, but there we go. A very low ISO setting on my little Canon M50. Were you getting Canon? Were you getting camera envy when Andrew was talking about his camera setups with his outside production?
Yes, I was kind of, I was having serious Canon envy.
Absolutely fantastic.
Camera envy. Yeah, because I am a Canon user anyway, so.
Wilderness Detour had to be that one person that says PC beats them all. Okay, that's fair enough.
There's always one.
There's always one, but you also can't deny it really when you look at the 3080 that's out now and the Ryzen 5000 which was announced, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And Tom from Lens Capture, good to see you, Tom. He put 0. It's really not very helpful, is it? But there we go.
That means he's still playing Angry Birds.
Yeah, still playing Angry Birds, indeed. You never know. Now, I always like to update people on what's coming up on Geeksvana. We've got a few interesting interviews coming up, actually, and one of which is one that Stephen has helped us gain, which we're very excited about on the AR side of things. There's a fantastic video you can go watch on Stephen's video now about Anarchy Labs and their VR, AR? AR, augmented reality. I keep calling it VR because that's PlayStation's marketing for you. Terrible. But augmented reality system, which is going to be phenomenal. And Stephen, being the professional pilot that gets to test all these things, has already had a go at it. So there's a video on his channel. But we've just carried out a really good interview with Hanu, the CEO over at Anarchy Labs. I love that name, by the way, Anarchy Labs. That interview will actually be in a slightly different format, will be across both channels, which is going to be very exciting. But it's going to be lots more collabs like that coming up, which is going to be an awful lot of fun, isn't it? So apart from the Mavic Air 2 video coming up, what else do you have coming up on the Flyby Guys?
Well, I was I have the Mavic Air 2, and I'm also going to talk a little bit more about, I don't know if you know this deal that was done with the Swedish company. With the telecom towers.
Yes, indeed.
There's a company called Globehe, which yes, I don't really get the name in a sense, no. But they've it's a very odd name. But they've just started they just got a deal with a major network. Not network operator, but network
itself.
Telecom company. Company. Yes. I know who the company is, but I can't say who it is.
No, indeed.
But they are starting this drone crowding, which means that people can go and do the jobs, which of course is fine. But I'm slightly concerned about this telecom inspection from a safety point of view. I think that this is actually quite.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to make a video about
Brilliant.
telecom inspections.
Excellent.
Because I actually do telecom inspections.
And this is the exciting thing I'm looking forward to with both of our channels. We're going to be bringing out such different content from different angles. And it's going to dovetail together so beautifully.
Because I've seen quite a lot of people on the Facebook groups talking about wanting to do these kind of things and thinking that they can just go and fly, which of course in a sense that they can, and there's nothing really stopping them. But however, there's things that they really need to know. There's things they have to understand, because it can be problematic and it can be very, very expensive if they're not insured.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that one, sir. I just want to very, very quickly give a quick shout out to our new channel sponsor, which you're going to be hearing about more in the next couple of weeks, Drone Safe Register, which is very exciting to be working with some sponsors. Our very first sponsor. So thank you very much, Drone Safe Register, for being one of the first Geeksvana direct sponsors. You're not going to be seeing lots of adverts and that long adverts, etc. We're going to be integrating them into the channel in a very fun way, actually. There's a specific series that's coming back to Geeksvana, which they'll be sponsoring as well, which will be a lot of fun. So look out for that in the next couple of weeks, and thank you again to Drone Safe Register. Okay, well that is basically us for the evening. We have run long, longer than we normally would.
But it was fun.
What time is it there, Stephen?
It's 10 to 2 here. It's 10 to 2 in the morning.
Okay, I'm very sorry, because we actually start at midnight your time, don't we?
It was actually really good fun. It was really good to talk with Andrew. Andrew, thank you. It was good to talk to you. At long last, I know we've been actually chatting on LinkedIn quite a bit sometimes over the past few months, but it's been good to speak to you.
And again, there's the link which will take you to all the other links for crowded space drones in the description. Do go and hit them up and have a look, and look at the CSD productions, etc. as well, to see the innovative things these guys are doing, and obviously as well trying to help the hobby as they go. But that's it for tonight on Drones and Tech. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone, and fly safe.